Wendy Scanlon, and I am the coordinator for the Senior Chef program at Pegasus Health. So I see quite a few familiar faces in the audience. As part of that, we offer the Seniors Eating Well program, which is a 2-hour workshop where we give you some key messages. You're going to hear a bit of a repetition today around nutrition and older people, and also we have kits that you can take out. It's like a 5-minute little snack you can do with your groups around nutrition messages, and we have 4 nutrition messages that we cover, and I'll be covering some of those today. So it's my absolute pleasure to be with you today. When Chris rang me, I think I was number 3 she tried, so I felt like I really should be here. But I love doing community talks, and I'm really passionate about older people and their health and well-being. And I guess we all want the same, don't we? We want our older people to be fit and strong and healthy. And I have to tell you a little story. I was going through my Facebook feed this morning, you know, the fount of all knowledge, and I came across this picture, and it was, I don't know if it happens here in New Zealand, but in the UK, they have signs outside residential care of an old person walking across the road, so to slow down. They changed it, and this was Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers dancing. So I thought, isn't that great? Let's change our mindset and have healthy older people and really embrace our seniors. So that leads me on to my wonderful role model here. Oh, sorry, there. Reg. Reg to me epitomises ageing well, and he's been part of our Senior Chef program. And I think the thing about Reg is he cooked, he lives by himself, he was a very good cook, but he wanted to re-motivate himself around nutrition and living by himself and what he could do to help that out. The other thing I loved about Reg was at 92, he was still on his bike, and he was a very active person. And the other thing was he had great purpose relationships in his life. He had a faith-based community, and he lived in China for much of his life, so now he was teaching English. So for me, Reg ticks all the boxes, and he was an absolute joy to have as part of our Senior Chef whānau. So we'll kick on. I guess let's just set the scene here. We have an ageing population, and you know, just in 5 years, 1 in 5 people are going to be over the age of 65. And where I come from is the need to try and keep our seniors well through what they eat, and to prevent frailty and to prevent malnutrition. And malnutrition, in my eyes, is a bit of a silent disease that goes unnoticed. You'll see up there, this was a very recent study. It was just published last year, and it was 3,000 older people, 50% of Māori and 37% of non-Māori were at risk of malnutrition. And this is done through a screening tool. This is for people living in the community. So these are not people who live in residential care. They're community living older people. And the big factor there was those ones particularly who were living alone and who were socially isolated. So that's the group at Senior Chef that we work with the most, and you will come across them in your work as well. Because, as it says, just under a third of older New Zealanders live alone. So that's kind of our target audience. I guess too, let's just think about why nutrition is so important. So I'd just like, maybe with the person next to you, why do you think as we get older, nutrition is a really, you know, what we eat becomes important. Okay, so why is it important for our older population to be well nourished? Sorry. And Chris was saying that we need to make sure that we're preventing or managing those lifestyle diseases. She was especially saying about osteoporosis and how it's important for bone health, and we're going to touch on that too. Yep, definitely. Yes, Anna.
It affects your mental health.
Definitely. And I think too, we've got lots of things happening for that older population around well-being. It could be them living alone. It could be not being able to get out so much, not being, you know, having your own transport, losing your driver's license. It could be that a dear loved one has passed away. So there's lots of those things impacting. But we know that nutrition, if we're well nourished, we're much better in our mental health. Yeah. Yeah, anything else? Yes?
We are what we eat.
We are what we eat, that's right. And so if we eat well, you know, you think about things like if someone's not eating well and they get a cold, it's going to linger longer, their immunity's not going to be so good. For older people, it might mean more hospital admissions, that they're going to stay in hospital longer, that they can't fight off infection, that they might get skin issues and they're not going to heal up. So these things are happening, and these are the things that we really want to prevent. So that leads me on into my first nutrition message for you today, and that is to really have a variety of foods each day. And I think this is the most important message I see among older people, because what happens is that the range of food often decreases. If your range of food decreases, those lovely nutrients decrease as well. As we age, well, I think if we're an active older person, this doesn't really apply, but our energy needs do decrease. If we're active, our energy needs will stay the same. Our nutrients will still need the same number of nutrients, and there's one nutrient we need more of as we get older, and that's protein. And it fits very well with your work and building strong, healthy bones and muscles. So we're going to talk about protein. But you'll notice on the slide there that half of that plate is vegetables. And even for older people, we're wanting to really encourage the intake of vegetables. Kiwis, if I was to say to Julie, what's for tea tonight? Julie would probably answer, like we all do, oh, we're having chicken, or we're having fish, or we're having sausages. We don't give much attention to the vegetables that we have. And so that's really important, and that's something that we do, sort of honouring the veggies at Senior Chef. And my next question for you is, if I was a person living by myself, how could you encourage me to eat more vegetables? It's tricky, because my whole cauliflower goes off. It's really expensive. So you need to be thinking about things there. And so again, at Senior Chef, we really encourage the use of frozen vegetables, so you can pull out a scoop when you need it. We encourage canned vegetables. We encourage recipes that include more vegetables. So it might be you're making a mince dish, but you're remembering to include vegetables with your mince. So it's very basic messages, but we need to have them out there. The other thing about vegetables is the one nutrient that I'm quite big on is fibre. And we know that fibre has a real ability to improve our gut health. And you would have heard this term about our microbiome, our microflora. And we know that people who have a good intake of that, so those plant foods, those vegetable foods, have a very healthy microflora. And that's very important. Important for our mental health. We know that there seems to be a relationship, as odd as it may sound, between gut health and overall mental health. It's also very important just in hopefully the management of all those gut diseases like diverticulitis, what sort of disease, but constipation, those kind of things. So lots and lots of vegetables, that's what we want. But you see also we've got a quarter of our plate with those protein foods. In New Zealand we have a wealth of protein. It's not so much that we struggle to get enough, but we want to make sure that it's good quality protein, and that for older people they're getting it through the day, and I'll touch on that later. And then that final quarter is those carbohydrate foods, and there's a real focus now on whole grains. Lots of bad press with carbohydrates often. The focus is on those high fibre ones. So we're going to touch on those next. Oh, actually I've got one more slide, which goes back to what I was saying. And this again, maybe just have a chat with the person next to you. But, yep, move on to that one. How do you enjoy more vegetables as an older person? So have a chat. I've mentioned some, there might be some others that you come across, but that's a really important thing, that we try and get people to be eating more vegetables. All right, everyone, we'll just get back together. Now, Colleen just made a comment. She was with a lady yesterday, and you're having fish and chips.
Yeah, I live in a village and we're having our main meal, which is fish and chips and some coleslaw. But the person beside me said, I wish there's some colour here.
And isn't it
more enjoyable?
Yeah, and isn't that telling? So that lady wanted some more colour. We eat with our eyes. It's always, I don't know if anyone's watching MasterChef at the moment, but you know, it's all very colour, isn't it? It's all very how you see it and how beautiful it is. And that's what we need to remember. Any other suggestions for particularly people living by themselves and getting more veggies in? Anna?
You can add, like, have a smoothie or a drink or something, and if you're making like a, I don't know, banana smoothie, you can add like some spinach or some avocado or something to the drink. And there's also fruit, veggies and berries in a capsule that you can take as well.
Right,
which are great.
Yeah. So it's adding things, isn't it? And smoothies is a great way. The other thing which I think older people, well, I know senior chef just love, is soups. And I love soups, and it's the perfect time. So encouraging soups, and soups are great too because of course you can freeze them and you can portion them out, and you can make something quite basic. And I always say to people, it's the way of getting rid of those vegetables that don't look too good. So you know that's really good. Any other ideas for veggies? Yes, yeah, that's a great point. So adding lentils, that's going to get that protein into that meal. Oh, I've got a bit of corn issue going.
They can just put it into things like add parsley, eggs, or something. Do a little bit more thinking, can I get vegetable?
Exactly. We sort of say, ask every meal, can I get some more veggies into it?
Yeah.
So we teach people how to make omelettes,
Yeah.
but our omelettes just as an egg. You know, it's adding some baby spinach or adding some mushrooms, or it's just trying to make the most of those vegetables in every way we can. Okay, so thank you for that. Okay, I didn't tell you I'm from Auckland, and the blues one. How amazing is that? Anyway, whole grains are the winner. There's my favourite All Black, who also happens to be a Crusader actually. So anyway, but I think, you know, carbohydrates, as I said, often get quite a bad press. The keto hasn't done us any favours. So we really do want to try and minimise those very refined carbohydrates, but we really want to embrace the carbohydrates that are high in fibre. And I think for older people, that tends to be two things. Tends to be what bread they're choosing and probably what they're eating. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's good. I think I've got a big head. Yeah, so, and what they're probably having for their breakfast cereal. And so you might come across people and you might say, well, I don't know if my bread's high in fibre. I don't know if what I'm having for breakfast is high in fibre. So we have a bit of a rule that we use, and it's called 10-10-5 to stay alive. Has anyone heard? Probably if you've seen me before, you would have heard of this thing. Yes, it's Nadine's favourite.
Yeah.
The 10 refers to the fat content of the food, so we want less than 10 grams. And we're talking here, this is so confusing. When you look at a packaged food, you'll have something that says the serving size, and you have the 100 gram column size. We want you to compare against the 100 gram. It's less than 10 grams of sugar. But the one that I'm interested in today is more than 5 grams of fibre. And that's really important. So it's a really good idea for people to go home and just check what's their bread looking like. You can do this all tonight. You can go home. Look at what, you know, if you have oats for breakfast, or if you have wheat bix, or if you buy muesli, have a look. Does it come up to that 5 gram? Yes.
Can I ask about the sodium, sugar, salt?
Yeah, so sodium, it should be less than 400 milligrams per 100 grams. So I need some, I forgot to use my wonderful device here. New Zealanders aren't very good at eating fibre. That's why we really push that half plate of vegetables. The recommendation is about 30 grams of fibre a day. We get about 18. And this what happens, this is my bell. This is what happens if I only get 18 grams of fibre a day. It's a low fibre diet. Not doing much good. Not cleaning out that bowel. Not refreshing it every day. This is my 30 grams a day. Yeah. See how it scrubs the sides of the bowel and gets it lovely and clean? This is what we wanted. This is what we're going for. And that's what's real. That's why I really push that message. So I need some volunteers. Probably need about 8 people. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a label. And we're going to have a look at that 100 gram column. And we're going to see how they stack up. So if a few people like to stand up and come to the front, that would be fantastic. Not too hard. We've got rolled oats. Who likes porridge? Yes? Yeah, okay. We'll give Chrissy the rolled oats. Usually for Karen, we've got something that grandkids might like, Crispies, or maybe not. We've got some Nutrigrain for Denise. We've got wheat bix for Ian. Here we go. I'll do Bogle honey. I need 2 more volunteers. Nadine, you can do wheat bix bites. And Alex, you've got sultana bread. So the first thing we need to do is give you one of these. Go. That's a little magnifying glass because they're hellishly small. Oh, there you go. There's some spares here for anyone who wants to take them home. Okay, so firstly, team, we need to find the 100 gram column. You all found that? Okay. Now go down and find your dietary fibre. Okay, so we're going to rearrange ourselves. So I want the highest down that end. I want the lowest down that end. Okay, I'll be the marker. I've got Vogels and I'm 5.3. So if you guys arrange, you'll have to talk to your low, high. Sorry, did I get that right? Yeah. High, low. I'm 5.3.
Oh yeah, you got sultana bread, of course.
Oh really?
You won't be out there.
Okay, well actually we've got some good choices today. I just kind of picked them out of our, we've got this big bag of labels. Except Julie. Julie is 1.6. And if I brought along Ricey's Bubbles and if I brought along cornflakes, I'd be down here too with you, Julie. I'm 5.3, which is a good choice. What have we got next?
7.4.
7.4.
Oh, sorry, 7.
7.
8.3.
8.3.
9.1.
9.1.
Oh, like that page.
10.1.
11.8.
15.5.
Okay. Look at the 2 cheapest options, oats and wheat bix. Fantastic. Shall we try it with sugar? Okay, so remember, it's less than 10 grams. However, if it's got dried fruit in it, which some of these have, you can go up. It's about 25% because of that dried fruit. All right? 25 grams per 100. What are you?
Less than 20.
We would like, I mean, if someone's got diabetes, we'd love them to be at a low range. So let's all rearrange ourselves.
So go low to high.
So we'll go low to high.
Me and my porridge, I'm only down to porridge at 1 point.
Oh, high. Oh, 21.5. Okay, all right. Oh my goodness, look what Ian and Bex are down the fantastic end of being low in sugar. And of course, when you're low in sugar, then you can add lovely things, can't you? You can add more fruit, you can add, yogurt, you're going to get sweetness from the
Look at us from
Nutrigrain, Denise, what's Nutrigrain? 12, yes.
big jump.
Yeah, and I mean, Nutrigrain used to be huge in sugar, much higher than that, but they've reformulated it. But all the marketing that happens around Nutrigrain, it's just terrible. And when you think how much, it's $8 a box.
Yeah.
I can get a big box of wheat bix way cheaper. So and we've got some of the mueslis now. So they've got fruit in them, so they're okay. You don't really want fruit.
No fruit here.
Yeah.
Honey?
Yeah.
21.5.
And I've got honey custards, which is 25, which is no fruit, so not a great choice.
22. So you remember that was very low in fibre, and now it's very high in sugar.
28.2.
And that's predominantly because of the sultanas. So yeah. So there you go. So tonight you might want to go home and check in on your breakfast cereal and bread, and you know how to think about that as well. Okay.
After eating all these, which was your favourite?
I love things too.
milk.
And in fact, at Senior Chef, we teach people how to make a gorgeous muesli out of oats. And actually, that's what I have for my breakfast. Yes.
So the raisins are bad?
No, they're not necessarily bad. They're high in fibre. They give you some sweetness. But if you were to then take that and put, I don't know, sugar, honey, you know, it's, yeah.
So rather have rolled oats with a bit of...
Rolled oats with, you know, fresh
bit of
kiwi
raisins.
fruit, banana, raisins, yeah. So it's thinking about the big picture.
All the people that I come across are big breakfasty. They eat breakfast. You know, it's just maybe tweaking with it a bit, and that's where the protein often comes in as well. Okay, so we've done whole grains. My fourth message to you is to make sure that our older people are having protein at each meal and snack. And it just fits so wonderfully with the work you do, because you're spending so much time building healthy muscles and healthy bones that we need to feed the muscles and we need to feed the bone. We know, I always sort of look at it like, if you had a big tub and it had holes in it, if you were to pour a bucket of water in, beginning of the day, all go out. If you had a hose that was trickling, you could probably keep that level up for the whole day. And that's the sort of message we want for our older people, is to make sure that we're having a small amount of protein at breakfast, at lunch and dinner, and also that we really make our snacks count. And sometimes we see the tea and toast brigade, who will have toast with jam and a black cup of tea. They may have another black tea and a ginger nut. They may have a cup of soup and a piece of toast, and then they might have their dinner at night. You can see for that, the first 3/4 of the day, there's no protein. And we don't want that to happen. We want to make sure that protein is included. So with protein, it's great to have a variety. You know, traditionally in New Zealand, it's been meat and chicken. We encourage older people to have some of those lentils and legumes and beans. Very economical, very high in protein, and of course high in my #1 nutrient, fibre. So very important. Fish is great, and here it doesn't have to be fresh. It always annoys me how expensive fresh fish is in New Zealand. It can be canned, so canned's fine. And then, yeah, and to make sure that our red meat is lean and we don't need too much of it. So those are our protein sources. And this is just an illustration of what can happen. You know, that tea and toast, we've got the tea and the toast, and we've got a sandwich and juice. How can we up the protein? What can we do for breakfast? Yeah, add an egg on toast, or add a milky drink, or if we are having some porridge, making it with milk. Those are the kind of things. So you think back, it's potentially with breakfast, it's getting those more milk products in, and perhaps eggs. Those are probably the most common protein sources. So there you go, and that's up the ante. What about lunchtime? You could add some cheese as well. You could make that milk-based drink, or it could be a milk-based hot drink, or it could be yogurt. So it's not saying that you have to eat huge amounts of food, but what you are eating is counting and is really making a difference. Right, my next message, message number 5, and again, it goes hand in hand with muscles, it's looking after our bones. And really, I should be standing in front of teenagers talking about this, because this is where it all begins. You know, and lifetime effort to look after our bones. But we know there's some messages that you can portray. The first one is keeping in, healthy weight, but the group that I'm concerned with is the group that are losing weight. That's not going to be good for your bones. So we need to, see some laughter in the audience there. We really need to be aware of this group, especially people who are having unintentional weight loss. They can't work out why they're losing weight. If you come across people like that, I'd be saying you need to go and have a check-up with your GP. We need to be seeing what's going on. But definitely, being a healthy weight. That message about variety is so important. I don't know if any of you come from a teaching background or ever taught a child to read, but I always think good nutrition is about almost like teaching a child to read. The more vocabulary that child has, they talk about those talking to children, reading them books, the greater the chance of learning to read is. Same with our nutritional status. The more food we're having from those different food groups, the more chance we will be well nourished and not become malnourished. And we also know that fruits and vegetables play a role in keeping our bones healthy. Calcium-rich foods, this can be a tricky one. You'll probably have people, I don't know, how many people had the Milk in Schools program? I was too young. Do you still drink milk? No. And that's what I hear a lot of. So milk's an underrated. We need to think of milk and milk products, but they are very good sources of calcium, and that's what our bones need. And so again, it's thinking a little bit outside the square. You think about making a soup. Instead of, you could add milk to your soup if it's a pumpkin soup.
Wendy, what if they really don't want milk or dairy products?
It's really hard because they really need it, and calcium supplements are not recommended. They have an increased risk of heart attack, heart disease, heart problems, and also they often give gut upset. I think it's... Yes, you can. Most of the old people that I talk to aren't really into plant milks, but if they'll have a plant milk, that's good. My only warning about plant milk is to probably go for a soy calcium fortified one, and the almond, the rice, the oat milk, very low in protein. A cup of cow's milk will give you 8 grams of protein. A cup of oat milk's probably only about 1. Yeah, again, if you've got a dairy intolerance, then you'd be needing a soy milk. Yeah. You've got a soy intolerance, then you would have to go to another plant-based milk. They are calcium fortified. So it's thinking about, will they have cheese? Will they have yogurt? Those are other things. Will they have cheese that's been cooked? Will you put cheese in an omelette? Will you put cheese with your mashed potato? It's thinking about those kind of things. Would they enjoy cheese and crackers rather than having a glass of milk? The other thing that's very important is that you do get snippets of calcium from those other foods, and you see a couple up there. The green leafy vegetables, have to eat an awful lot of them to get the equivalent as you would from your milk and milk products. But they're still important to making sure that's where the variety comes in. The other one is those oily fish. We don't tend to eat a lot of them in New Zealand, but I encourage, if people like sardines, sardines are a really good source of calcium. So it's being aware, but really, I think the first message is ensuring variety. The second message would be those calcium-rich foods. And then fizzy drinks, this is again tends to be for our teenagers. Interestingly, my daughter did, when she was doing U10, foods and nutrition, they asked the class of 20 girls, all-girls school, how many of you drink milk? 2 of them put their hands up. But I'm sure all of them drank fizzy, and we know that fizzy has phosphorus, and that leaches the calcium out of the bones.
What about the sparkling waters?
They won't have, in what way do you mean? They will have a bit, but I'd encourage people to drink water maybe not to have sparkling water every time, make it an occasional thing. Because the other thing is that it erodes your enamel on your teeth. Yeah, because it's fizzy. I'm just going to readjust myself again. Okay. All right, and last but not least, go easy on alcohol. Doesn't say give it up, but just to be aware of it for your bone health. And vitamin D, which is on that list. Now you all know about vitamin D. Right now in Christchurch, we're probably all not getting enough. We should be outside. It's really, really tricky, this vitamin D thing, because we want to be sun smart. We get vitamin D predominantly through sunshine, a little bit through food. And actually I was just reading a really good article by one of the Auckland researchers, and actually I always thought eggs had vitamin D, but he said nope, you're not going to get much vitamin D from eggs. So it's mainly from our sunshine that we get it, and we need to be mindful that we have to wear sunblock. You have sunblock, that UVB that goes into our skin and then makes the vitamin D is the one that's overhead right in the middle of the day. So my suggestion is winter time, you're probably relatively protected, the sun is not so strong, trying to get out in the middle of the day with our arms uncovered, which we don't do, we cover up. And then in summertime to be getting out early in the morning or later in the day. We're notorious for not putting our sunblock on very well, so we will get a little bit through the skin where we maybe missed a patch. If you're seeing people who cover up, don't get out too much, I'd be saying to them, maybe have a chat with your GP about a vitamin D supplement, because we do know that people who are low in vitamin D affects their bones, but also affects their overall health and their mental well-being as well if you're low in vitamin D. So yeah, but take them back to your GP, they're the person. You can buy over-the-counter vitamin D supplements, but I think it's always important to have a chat with a medical professional.
Wendy, just like it's worth saying about the glass as well.
Yes, so lots of older people might sit behind glass in the sun. The glass, the UVB does not come through the glass. So that's another thing to remember.
Wendy,
Yes.
the only adequate kitty. So it's only this place.
Yes, it's a space.
That's all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is. But it has to be on a regular basis. They do say south of Nelson that it's very hard to get enough vitamin D over the winter months. Yeah. Okay, message number 6. How am I going for time, Chris? Right? All right. We've got some Downton Abbey fans in the audience? Yes, thank you, Ruth. This again is one of those most important messages, sharing meals together. Socially isolated, living alone, highest risk of malnutrition. And I think if you can encourage people to have every opportunity to share. I remember being at something and someone said, I get a bit, worried about cooking for other people, but I'm happy to be the host, so I just tell everyone else what to bring, and then they just rock up, and I just heat it up. So any way that we can encourage people, particularly if they're living by themselves, to get out and share food. There's been studies done with people receiving Meals on Wheels. Now these are sort of the frail elderly who are not cooking perhaps, but they're living in their own home. If someone comes and sits with them and has a cup of tea or shares a sandwich while they're having their Meals on Wheel, guess what? They eat it. They eat more. They don't leave it for the cash or whatever, or they eat it. And that's because of that social, we're all social animals, aren't we? And we love having that experience of being with other people. So sharing meals is really important. And I guess too, that brings me on to a little bit about the blue zones. And if you heard me speak before, you would have heard me talk about this. But the blue zones, are you aware? Blue zones are the 5 geographical areas in the world where they've got the largest concentration of centenarians, so people who have reached 100. But not only that, they're living life. They're like my friend Reg, they're really well and happy and integrated into society. And that's in Okinawa in Japan, it's in Costa Rica, it's in Greece, We've got a group in California, that's the Seventh-day Adventist group, and what else have I missed one? Oh, and Italy, Sardinia, thank you, Chrissy, yeah. So those groups, and they sort of have, they've kind of looked at them and thought, well, what's in common? Because they're very, very different communities. That Sardinian one is quite a poor community. The Okinawa one is quite rural. So there's sort of 4 areas that they touch on. Their food, generally quite a lot of plant, funny that, isn't it? Fibre, nutrients, really rich in that way. They move. Yay, you know, they just keep moving. In fact, I don't think in one of the cultures there's no word for retirement. So it's just making that movement is part of everyday life. So we're talking about walking, we're talking about large community gardens, that kind of thing. So that's really important. The second one is relationships. Most of these communities have their families around them. In New Zealand now we don't tend to live like that. So we need to make sure that we have other connections. Connection is a big part. And then finally, the final thing that they noticed was purpose. Purpose in life. And often they all have a faith base, or they'll be connected through, you know, their land, their whenua. There'll be other things that connect them, that give them that purpose. And that's what we want for our Canterbury older people. Right. Finally, I want to do a promo for my program, which is called Senior Chef. We know that if people can cook, they're less likely to be malnourished. So Senior Chef is an 8-week program. It's provided free in the community. It's funded through Pegasus Health. We run them predominantly in Christchurch, but we also, I don't know if we've got any North Canterbury people. Yes, we will run our next, we're just finishing one off in Rangiora. We will run our next one in Kaiapoi in term 4. It's an 8-week course, so we sort of do them in blocks like the school terms. It's about getting confidence in cooking. I think we're still at a time where there is a gender difference. I'm hoping that's going to change. But the men, it's more about cooking skills. The women, it's more that they've just cooked all their lives and they've had enough. You know, and even at, you know, my age, when my children say at 9 o'clock in the morning, what's for dinner, I do want to go, so it's inspiration, but it's also about connecting people. So the other thing you would have seen, I've left you a wee flyer. I think we've got some more. If anyone wants a bundle to take, let me know and I can get some to you. The other thing is that we put out a wee little newsletter that goes out quarterly. If you'd like to be on that, maybe leave your name and email with Nadine. Yeah. So on that it tells you, we try and have some fun recipes, we try and tell you where the next classes are for our referrers, and we try and promote activity as much as possible as well, as one of those key. Yes, we can run them in Ashburton as well. So we're just finishing one off in Ashburton. We run them in Lincoln too. So that's our other kind of semi-rural place as well. And the other thing that we did is that 2019 we relaunched our cookbook. So it's bright and colourful. It used to be in black and white. And we did a lot of focus testing with our participants and our facilitators to see what they wanted. They wanted more soups, more veggies. How do you do salads? How do you cook with legumes? So that's all in our new book. So I'll pass that round. Yes, so as I said, 8 weeks. People come for 3 hours. We try and book a group of 12. We find that's quite a good number. People, and it's discussion time, demonstrations, and all the messages that I've talked about with you this afternoon, are all incorporated through the program. We've had a couple of people from the North Island, one from the top of the south in the North Island have come down. They want to run it in their own community, so we've provided them with some training. But they always, at the end, think, well, it's not just about cooking, is it? And exactly right. It's about getting people together. It's about what you're cooking. It's about the messages that we've woven through the program. So, but the best part is you get to get the shared meal. And we always have a celebration at the end of term, so we try and keep people together. Some of our groups keep meeting, not always, and some of them will go for a walk or have a coffee. we've had one marriage. So it's a really lovely program, and I feel very honoured to be part of it. And I think